Hello again. I'm sure that regular viewers will be aware that I am very favourably inclined towards Islam generally, and that I regard it in exactly the same light as Christianity and Judaism. I'm happy to worship in the buildings of any of those three religions. But I am baffled to read that the Royal Mint is Sharia compliant. I suspect that if Britain's Royal Mint was to announce that it was a Christian organisation, or that they based their business practices upon the teachings of Jesus Christ, many people would object. I wouldn't be too keen myself. I don't think that it is the proper business of the Mint to endorse any religion. I have an idea too that many left-wing types would complain that there was something a bit exclusionary about declaring that this public body followed Christian practices. And yet we find that the Mint is conducting itself in accordance with the teachings of Islam and following the principles laid down by the Prophet Muhammad, and nobody bats an eyelid. I found this a bit strange. In the description to this video, I give a link to a document which is about global trends in Islamic finance as they touch upon the United Kingdom, and we read that the Royal Mint, manufacturer of the UK's coins, recently became the first mint in the world to achieve compliance with the Sharia standard on gold for its bullion products. Why would they do that? What on earth had Sharia law got to do with our mint? This prompted me to have a look at the Royal Mint website, where I was in for a real treat because I discovered that they are peddling an information pack which they have put together on Black history. It is called, inevitably, Diversity Built Britain. I won't go through my usual complaints that this excludes Indians, Jews, Chinese people and everybody else except those of African origin. Let's look at it and see what we have. The introduction says, these fact files contain fascinating stories and accounts of important and often inspirational black people who have had an impact on Britain throughout time, illustrating that our society has been diverse throughout our history. The activity sheets in this resource will help you think about the achievements of these people and the impact they have had on British society. I'm not going to cover every single one of the people in this. It would take too long and it would be wearisome. Let's just look at a couple of the things that they say and see what we can make of them. We see a colour photograph of the facial reconstruction of a black woman. Beneath it, we read, the skeleton of a woman was found at Beachy Head, Sussex, who lived in the first half of the 2nd century AD. She is believed to be of sub-Saharan African origin, and if so, would be the first person of sub-Saharan origin known in Britain. This is particularly interesting for historians and archaeologists, as while North Africa was part of the Roman Empire, sub-Saharan Africa was not. It also appears from tests to her remains that she grew up in southeastern England, which means she must have arrived at a very young age or was born to African parents in England. Well, there we are. It's clear and unequivocal. A couple of thousand years ago, a black sub-Saharan was living in England. Who was this important woman? We don't know. What was her impact on British society? Zero, I imagine. What about her achievements? No idea. At once we can see that this is fishy and that the introduction to this fact file is deliberately misleading. It gets better though, much better. From sub-Saharan Africa, we read, born to African parents. This is pure fiction, and we know that it's fiction. We are absolutely sure that it is entirely made up. The museum at Eastbourne sent a DNA sample to the Crick Institute, where it was tested. The skeleton is actually of a woman from southern Europe. almost certainly Cyprus. Absolutely no connection at all with Africa. Whoops. I give a link in the description to a news report of this. The Royal Mint is knowingly misleading people about this matter. Let us remind ourselves again what it says in the introduction to this pack of fairy tales. These fact files contain fascinating stories and accounts of important and often inspirational black people who have had an impact on Britain throughout time. We read about the Emperor Septimius Severus, who was born in North Africa of parents who were Roman and Phoenician. We know he was not black because we have statues and even a colour painting of him from ancient times. Various other Romans, Adrian of Canterbury, none of these were black. They were Romans or Berbers. Describing these people as they are in the introduction as important and often inspirational black people is completely false. I see we've got the Black Trumpeter from Tudor England. He lived in this country for 5 years, by the way. No one knows where he came from or where he went. Mary Seacole, of course. We are told that she travelled to Eastern Europe of her own volition to care for British troops. She opened a British hotel there and provided food, drink and limited medical care for her guests in the finest traditions of West Indian medicine and hospitality. She was awarded the British Crimean Medal for her services. She did not travel to Eastern Europe to care for British troops. She went there to open a restaurant for officers. There were no guests. Nobody stayed in the restaurant overnight. The finest traditions of West Indian medicine. According to Seacole's own account, she poisoned the victims of cholera by giving them a solution of lead acetate to drink. She was not awarded any medals at all, although she used to wear 3 or 4 after the end of the war. The British Crimean Medal was only awarded to soldiers who had fought in that war, not civilians. The Royal Mint are quite deliberately telling lies to children and indoctrinating them with fake history. As for arranging to be Sharia compliant, well, the mind boggles.